rise and fall of the Mongol Empire. Just history. From small beginnings, the Mongol Empire expanded to rule the greatest continuous empire in history. Fear of the Mongols spread even further, extending into East China, west into Levant, and north towards the Baltic, solidifying their reputation as some of history's most ferocious warriors. But how could a tribal leader named Genghis Khan lead a nomadic people to be seemingly invincible? And then how did it all come crashing down? This video includes a brief history of the Mongol Empire and the key causes of its downfall. So let's get going. The origin. Genghis Khan, also known as Genghis Khan, was born in Temujin in 1162, close to Lake Baikal, on the modern border between Mongolia and Siberia. When Temujin was a little child, his father, a member of the regal Borjigin clan, was killed in a neighborhood blood feud, forcing Temujin to grow up as an outcast. Temujin conquered all the clans in the area between 1195 and 1205, crushing his adversaries in a string of military triumphs. Temujin earned a reputation for giving his soldiers' families the benefits of victory rather than the nobility. Although the noble minority disapproved, Temujin received widespread support and saw his army expand. The first assault was made against the Tanga kingdom of Sisia, a Chinese frontier state in the northwest, resulting in Sisia's ruler swearing fealty. North China, which at the time was dominated by the Tungusic Jin dynasty, was the target of the following assault. The Jin kingdom was relegated to serving as a buffer state between the Mongols in the north and the Chinese Song Empire in the south when Beijing fell to the Mongols in 1215, marking the loss of all the area north of the Yellow River to them. There have been more wars against Central Asia. East Turkestan's Kara-Kitai kingdom was incorporated into the empire in 1218. Temujin was made emperor of the Great Mongol state in 1206, taking the title Genghis Khan, which roughly translates to the universal leader. Genghis reorganized the army into highly organized formations and passed regulations prohibiting women's sale, thievery, and hunting during animal breeding. He also freed the poor from paying taxes and promoted literacy and trade. A portion of the Eurasian steppe, a land bridge linking Europe to Central, East, and South Asia, was under Genghis's control. The Silk Road, which permitted the transport of products over great distances, was created on the steppe. In addition to promoting trade, Genghis saw that people and lands in the vicinity were waiting to be conquered. He scoured the area for potential targets while backed by an effective, devoted army. Expansion of the Mongol Empire. Western Xia, a region that is now China, was to the southeast of the Mongol territories. Genghis had conducted a raid in the area in 1205, returned in 1207, and began an invasion on a large scale that was finished in 1211. This increased the Mongol Empire's revenue by giving them control over a section of the Silk Roads and a vassal state that paid tribute. From here, the Mongol tribes turned their gaze eastward toward the more potent Jin dynasty territory, which had ruled over northern China and the Mongol tribes for generations. After initially fortifying their position behind the Great Wall, Jin forces were betrayed by one of their own. At the Battle of Yahuling, the Mongols were said to have killed hundreds of thousands of people, possibly exaggerating a bit. In 1227, the Mongol Empire covered a huge area between the Caspian and China Seas, bordering Siberia's thinly populated forest belt to the north and the Pamir Mountains, Tibet, and China's central plains to the south. Given the diversity of the people, religion, and civilizations that made up this empire, it's only logical to wonder what drove its unrivaled rate of expansion. It is important to consider the long-standing rivalry between pastoral, nomadic steppe inhabitants and developed agricultural civilizations. Wherever powerful nomadic tribes resided close to settled communities, there were occasional raids by nomads from the steppe. Genghis now proceeded to Zhengdu, present-day Beijing, the capital of Jin. When this fell, it drove the Jin kings south, where they would later be conquered by Genghis Khan, Genghis's third son and heir. The Muslim Khwarezmiya lands, which bordered the Caspian Sea in the west, the Persian Gulf, and the Arabian Sea in the south, came into direct contact with Genghis's territory after his soldiers also conquered the Kara-Kitai areas in the west. Genghis initially seemed to have no plans to conquer these territories. To start trade, he dispatched an embassy with gold, silver, pelts, and textiles. However, the caravan was attacked when it arrived in Otrar. Genghis then dispatched 2 Mongol and 1 Muslim diplomat to the Shah. The Muslim ambassador's head was sent back to Genghis by the Shah, who had all 3 men shaved. Genghis was so enraged that he organized his biggest assault and led about 100,000 soldiers over the Tian Shan Mountains. Despite the deployment of elephants to guard the city, the renowned ancient and intellectual city of Samarkand in what is now Uzbekistan was destroyed. 3 of the biggest cities in the world, Herat, Nishapur, and Merv, were also devastated. Death of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan left for China again, but passed away on August 25, 1227, in western Xia at Xingqing. He had a falling out with his second son, and his oldest son had passed away the year before. Thus, the third son of Genghis became known as Genghis Khan. Tului, the fourth son, got the Mongol homelands and an army of about 100,000 soldiers. According to custom, the youngest son should inherit his father's possessions. Genghis Khan carried on his father's ambitious expansionist strategy. The Mongols were known for their harsh strategies. Target cities were given a clear option: submit and pay tribute in exchange for peace, or resist and risk being completely decimated. Cities quickly offered tribute when the Mongol army advanced into Persia in 1230 rather than risk being destroyed. Kabul quickly fell as another force rushed into Afghanistan at the same time. Georgia and Armenia were taken over around 1230. The Mongols invaded Kashmir to the south and laid siege to Lahore in 1241 after entering the Indus Valley. Yet they could not completely conquer the area. A second Mongol force directed its vicious aim on Europe in the west, along the steppes. They seized control of Volga, Bulgaria, briefly controlled Hungary, and advanced as far north as Kiev and the Rus homeland, where tribute was paid. The downfall. The largest continuous land empire to ever exist was the Mongol Empire. Running the kingdoms was always extremely difficult due to the Mongols' effectiveness in enslaving and governing people from so many diverse locations, languages, and faiths. Because of the long-standing Chinese history of centralized state power, which provided a reliable foundation for the governmental organization, the Mongols were better equipped to retain their reign in China than elsewhere. But eventually, as China's central administration deteriorated, the empire started to disintegrate. Kublai Khan, Monchki's brother, succeeded him. The Mongol Empire completed China's unification over the following 2 decades and relocated its capital from Karakorum in Mongolia to what is now Beijing. The Chinese Yuan dynasty is recognized as having its beginnings with Kublai Khan. But the Mongols became victims of their success after 2 disastrous invasions of Japan and a vast kingdom that was getting harder to control. The empire was divided into 4 more compact khanates after Kublai Khan's death in 1294. The massive Mongol dominion gradually pushed back from the Middle East, and it couldn't be maintained by a single ruler. China's Yuan dynasty was only in power from 1368 till the Ming dynasty ousted it. It was brutal but successful. It reached its boundaries as it crossed Europe and Asia, but it disintegrated as it grew too cumbersome for weaker men to manage. In all the regions they conquered, and in those who feared their arrival, even if it never did, the Mongol Empire left an irrevocable mark on medieval history. To know more about such historic stories and about great emperors and landmarks, please subscribe to our channel, Just History.